the sonographer started scanning me, I seen her face drop.
On this week's All Walks podcast, we are delighted to be joined by Dr. Shannon Kelly, an elite Irish triathlete.
He calls me into the room and he asked me, could I call some family?
Shannon is preparing for the LA Olympics in 2028. She tells an incredible story about a life-changing medical condition.
My health scare made me do that leap of faith.
How she put it to one side, fought through it, and is living her best life.
I have a really healthy body right now. I can go back into medicine and be the doctor that I want to be.
So without any further ado, here's Dr. Shannon Kelly.
The All Walks podcast is now in your ear.
Go live! Well, we're here in the lovely Vico rooms and I'm delighted to be joined by elite Irish triathlete, Dr. Shannon Kelly. How you doing?
Good. Thank you, Greg, for having me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. We've been talking, emailing back and forth for a few months. You were away in Nepal and you're away in China, doing as you do best, training hard as a full-time professional athlete. How was that?
It was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
So cool to experience another culture, but also do what you love every day. It was incredible.
Going up mountains, probably cycling hundreds of kilometres, swimming miles. I'd say they were long days.
They were long days, and it requires, you don't see a lot of the country because you're in a hotel room, and we were with the Chinese Triathlon Federation and their national federation, so we were in this kind of 3-kilometre compound where they keep all their athletes, and I suppose it was just wake up, train, eat, nap, train, sleep, eat. It was just that on repeat.
Yeah.
But it was incredible because it's so different to here culturally, and you learn so much at the same time as doing a sport that I love.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to diving in. Before we do so, what was life like for you growing up?
Busy. My family is, I think the best word to describe them is busy. My dad had 2 jobs, so he worked in tyre sales, but then on the side he ran his own martial arts gym, the very first Muay Thai gym in Ireland, and he started that when I was 3 years old. And so I grew up as this little kid running around this martial arts gym, seeing athletes, get to their best and train every day. And then my mum ran half marathons and she had a full-time job. I was put into swimming and dancing, and my brother loved soccer and running, and we were just a busy family. But we just all found our niche. Sport was a big part of our life, and we just had a great time growing up.
Outstanding. Okay.
Muay Thai is the national sport of Thailand. So what it is it's sort of like kickboxing or K1.
Yeah.
But they also use grappling, knees and elbows. It's their national sport. They do like a ritualistic dance beforehand. Dad used to do jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, and he went over to Thailand in his early 20s and he fell in love with it, and he was the first ever gym to open up here in Ireland in Muay Thai. So he's taken young lads and girls off the streets and given them a place to put their passion into, and some of them have moved over to Thailand full time and made a great living from it. He has multiple world champions in female and male, so it's great to have grown up around that.
Yeah, do you have a big family?
No, it's just me, my brother, my mum and my dad.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So you're all very active, all very focused. Obviously school was something that you excelled at, becoming a doctor.
I don't know if I thought about it as excelling, more that I just really enjoyed school.
Yeah.
I just was a very inquisitive child. I did really weird things, like I used to get snails and wonder what was under the shell. Like that was me, I just always asked questions. And so I went into school and I started pretty early at 4 into primary school, which is quite young for a child to go in, but I think my parents thought I was ready. So then from then on, I just loved going to school.
Yeah. Being around school is, being a school teacher. There's something pretty special about a school environment. Yeah.
I think it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you are in a good environment that nurtures what you're passionate about or just gives you options, then it's the best place to be.
No, it is, of course. Where did you study medicine?
So I studied down in Limerick. I started that in 2017.
Okay.
That was my second degree. So I did a undergraduate at UCD in biomedical science, specialising in virology and epigenetics.
Wow. Virology?
Virology, yeah.
Which is?
The study of viruses. So my actual thesis at the end of my studies was on HIV-1 latency. So basically how we were targeting HIV to try and eradicate it from the world, because right now the only way people can live with HIV is we don't have basically a treatment or a cure for it. We just have a lifelong therapy. But that lifelong therapy, those drugs actually make you sick in the long run. So we want to try and abolish the lifelong therapy and try and get a cure. So that's what I was working on in my undergraduate.
Well, and then during that time, you obviously became passionate about medicine.
I did. I loved research. Again, I loved asking questions, but I was missing something. I was missing that people interaction. I wasn't seeing that my work was correlating to a cause. It was harder to see that because with medical research you're 10 steps back and you don't get to see what your work might do in 10 years time. It's a delayed reaction, which is still nice, but I just wanted more of a people to people interaction on a daily basis and try and help people on a daily basis.
God. And what line of medicine did you go into?
So when you graduate in your intern year, you get to specialise in usually 2 to 4 areas, 2 in medicine or 1 or 2 in surgery. So I chose Waterford because I had a passion for obviously epigenetics, but also oncology. So those 2 tie together, we've realised a lot in the last couple of years. So I did my rotations in oncology, gastroenterology, colorectal surgery and orthopaedic surgery.
And was there a connection to oncology that made you choose that?
Yes, my mum unfortunately had breast cancer when I was 11. So that was probably my first interaction with being in a hospital setting. And it was a really good story, I suppose, in my experience, because she got cured for a couple of years. So I just thought these people were amazing. My mum went in, she was sick, and she came out well again, and she was my normal mum. So I just thought these people were fantastic, and I suppose that's where the inspiration came as a child to maybe, what do these people do? How do I be one of them?
And how's your mum doing now?
She's doing fantastic. Right now she's in swimming lessons every Monday. She unfortunately got breast cancer again when I was 19. And she went through a harder time then when it recurred, even though she was on the screening program. But after her operations and a lot of medication and treatment, she's back doing swimming, because swimming after specific surgeries like mastectomies and lat dorsi reconstructions, which is what she had, you can get shoulder issues, you can get lymphedema when you take the lymph nodes out. So swimming's actually really good for that. It'll bring back your shoulder strength, and it'll just, I think it's something about the water is very calming for people. So she loves it.
Yeah, my wife is a cancer survivor, and she actually has very bad lymphedema. So sea swimming helps her out a little bit. But would swimming over a longer period help lymphedema?
Yes, it's just the blood flow as well. The getting the tissues moving so that drainage is occurring, because it's obviously stopped when we take out some of the lymph nodes. You've kind of created a fault in the flow, essentially. So swimming really helps that.
Excellent. Now, you are an elite triathlete.
Yes.
You're probably not used to people saying that. So
No.
how did you go from being a doctor on your way to having a medical career to pivoting and becoming a professional full-time triathlete?
It was never in the plan, Greg. It was never in the plan. I suppose I always grew up in sport, as I said, and I went into my medical studies, and I know that medicine is intense. And when I do something intense, I need an outlet. I need something else on the side to kind of not go tunnel vision too much. I think that's important for people who excel at anything, that they have just something on the side that kind of brings them back down to reality and doesn't make them go too tunnel vision into something, because sometimes we can lose perspective then. So I thought, I'll try something new. So I had swam up to national level as a child, so swimming wasn't new to me. I had run with my mum when she was doing half marathons in my teens, but I had never cycled, and I'd never put them all together or done an endurance event. So I heard about triathlon, and I signed myself up to the local kind of triathlon club and the university triathlon club down in Limerick, to try make new friends and just have an outlet, as I said, and that's where it all began.
Yeah, you were the Queen of Greystones.
Yes, the Queen of Greystones.
3 years in a row.
Nearly the king.
nearly the king.
I'm chasing down Alex, our king.
Yeah.
Last year I got second, so I'm still chasing him. But hopefully in the next few years we'll get him. That was my first triathlon back after getting ill. So I suppose my journey from doing triathlon as an outlet to my professional career is probably different than most. I had I suppose a big gap from triathlon when I got ill in my early 20s.
Yeah, and when I first came to hear about you and to learn about your journey, it was pretty obvious that in 2019 you had a significant health scare. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, I suppose it's not anything that a young 20-year-old goes through or thinks that's going to happen to them. I remember I got a call up for a French team, and they have these triathlon leagues. In France, triathlon is they're nearly their national sport. They're really passionate about it. So they have leagues with 100 girls every summer, and you have a team, and the team kind of pay for you to go over there. And they've had some athletes, unfortunately, with heart arrhythmias and heart conditions, and they had recently lost a professional French triathlete. So they had put in this system that if you wanted to race in this league, you had to get an ultrasound of your heart, which is similar to an ultrasound when you are pregnant, but it's on your heart. So you're able to see the structures and the chambers, the heart muscle, and how it's working as it's pumping. So although I was already coming into the professional scene in Ireland, and I had gotten an ECG, which is a heart trace of your rhythm of your heart, that was perfectly normal. So I just signed up with my insurance to get this ultrasound in the local hospital. It cost €50, and I remember driving my bike and a friend's bike at the time in my car, and I was on my way from med school placement to my training session. And we were all doing an indoor kind of bike session, because the weather in Ireland, as you know, is sometimes horrific, and we can't cycle outdoors for too long. But I went in, I got it done, and as soon as the sonographer started scanning me, I seen her face drop. And I knew as a medical student, there's something not right here. And so she said, oh, would you just have a seat in the waiting room? I'm just gonna print something out for you. We're having trouble with the machine, and I just had this kind of gut feeling something wasn't right. And then the next thing I know, a consultant comes out and he calls me into the room and he asked me, could I call some family? That they seen a very large shadow in one of the chambers of my heart, and they couldn't tell me what it was. At first they did think it was a tumour. They didn't know whether it was cancerous, they didn't know what was causing it, but it was very large. It was 7 centimetres by 1.5 centimetres, so it was long and large, and it started in my vessel that drains your head, neck and arms, and led into my heart chamber, and then kind of ballooned up from there. So hearing that, I was in shock, and of course I rang one of my family members and they came, and I was just admitted immediately. My poor friend's bike in the car, and they were ringing me, so we got that sorted anyway. But I was kept in for at least a month, and we did a lot of scans, and we also found 3 pulmonary embolus in my lungs. So that's when they were realising that this shadow was a massive organised clot in my heart that had formed over a long period of time, slightly calcified, and I had very little symptoms. I was training normally. Looking back, I possibly had some breathlessness, but it was definitely a shock to hear something like that as a 20-something-year-old.
God, for your family as well, and for you.
I think that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think seeing your loved ones not be able to do anything, they feel so helpless, and you're making them feel like that. Not at any fault of your own, but you know, your health has caused this situation, and you see them and they feel sad, and you don't want them to feel sad. You don't want them to feel sorry for you or to want to switch places. You don't want it to be in this situation at all, but it's hard.
Wow. And do you then go on a large course of blood thinners? Does that help?
Yes, so they actually wanted to do open heart surgery, and they gave me a window. There wasn't this was very, very rare. It was actually a rare side effect of the oral contraceptive pill, which a lot of teenage girls are placed on. And actually people don't know that with the newer generation contraceptive pills, which I was placed on for more so for period pain and just like a normal thing for teenage girls to go on, and to help with my sporting endeavours. And I'd been on it for a couple of years, no issues, but 1 in 100 will get a clot on the pill, which is a huge figure.
Massive.
And usually we think these people are, you know, smokers, overweight, but I was pretty much a beacon of health. I was fit, never smoked in my life, didn't really drink alcohol, did sport to a high level, and was a med student. So it just goes to show it's not discriminatory, that anybody in this 1 in 100 can get a clot on the pill. So it's something that we need to kind of think about when we're placing younger girls and women on this sort of medication.
And how are you feeling now?
Luckily, great. So I suppose they wanted to do open heart surgery. I did my own research when some of the clot medication or the blood thinners. So basically, a blood clot isn't actually broken down by the blood thinners. It's your own body that breaks it down. The blood thinners just prevent it from getting bigger as your body breaks it down, because any thing that slows the flow will cause the clot to form bigger. And so I tried, 2 of the newer generations, and they just didn't work. And they were like setting my date for the surgery, and I did my own research. I reached out to doctors in America. Being a medical student, you're kind of as a 20-year-old, you don't want open heart surgery. It's going to change your life.
And you're
forever.
also very inquisitive, as you said before, so I'm sure you got busy.
Yes, absolutely. So I asked to be put on a very old drug called warfarin, which meant...
My mother was on warfarin.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we don't usually see any younger people on it these days because it's very harsh and it interacts with a lot. And usually it's only used in people who might have metallic heart valves or who have contraindications to other medications. But it's not routinely used nowadays because we have such, I think, more sophisticated blood thinners. But they weren't working, and there wasn't a lot of data in the past because this was so rare. It was only seen a few times over the last 50 years. So there was one study that showed that this medication could maybe help. So I asked as a last ditch resort, whilst they were scheduling me for this open heart surgery that would change my life and basically not allow me to do an endurance event again. And they would have to stop my heart and cut it open and remove the organised clot. And what people don't know about open heart surgery is we have to stop the heart completely, and you go on this machine that kind of takes over. But even if the surgery goes 100% the way that the surgeon wants, we can't give you 100% guarantee that we can restart the heart back. So in figures, it's usually 97 out of the 100 will be able to restart the heart, but there's still a 3% risk that you know, even if everything goes to plan, that you won't. And hearing that as a 20-year-old is just horrible as well. So I suppose I went into survival mode and I asked for this drug. And I remember going to my best friend in Cornwall as a kind of a last hurrah, because I wouldn't be allowed on a airplane for a while. I had to drop out of my final year of med school, which was the next year, because they told me I would be recovering for months, and I'd be kind of on coagulants for a long time as well after that. And so I went over to her and I had my mapping scan before I went. It was about 2 weeks before the surgery was scheduled. And I remember getting a call off my dad when we were over there. And I picked up and he was crying. And I was like, oh no, this is really, really bad. And he just, it's gone. It's gone. 2 weeks before the surgery was due. And so that was another shock.
What?
But I felt like I was given a second chance then to do everything that was nearly taken away from me for the rest of my life.
Are you still taking warfarin?
No, I'm not. So luckily we stayed on it for another 6 months. Because I vividly remember cutting my finger on wrapping paper at Christmas and it not stopping for hours. And, you know, it's simple things like that people don't realise, that when you're on blood thinners, it's really problematic. So you kind of scare people when they see blood as well. So I stayed on that for 6 months more, and then went on another anticoagulant as well after that, a newer generation.
And for you now, being a professional full-time athlete, in the hopes of being an Olympian, looking towards 2028, and we're going to talk about that side of your journey because I'm fascinated by it. You're obviously getting tested quite often now.
Yes.
So I suppose your mind's at rest knowing that you have doctors and you've got medical staff that are constantly checking your heart. How is it?
Absolutely fine. Every year I get another ultrasound, and I also go to the National Coagulation Centre and get checked up, get some bloods done, and they look after me very, very well. But that's because I'm in the system. I do think we need to integrate more screening protocols into Ireland for young people in sport, or even just for people in their 20s and 30s, 40s and 50s that want to maybe run that bucket list dream of a marathon.
Yeah.
You know, I would say to them, if you are thinking of doing an endurance event, just get your heart checked out, go to your local GP and just say, look, I'm looking to do this sporting or endurance event. I just want to get checked out.
Great advice. I think absolutely top advice, because there's more and more people who are slightly older, for example. You know, not that saying I'm an old man or middle-aged man, but you know, they want to do stuff more
Absolutely.
extreme. They want to now cycle around the world, or they want to like run across America,
which I think is inspirational.
But you need to get tested.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Exactly.
That's vital.
Like and it's just by word of mouth. My old dance school that I went to heard about my story, and last week they just screened 40 of their top dancers who are only maybe the ages of 13 to 18 with ECGs, and they did this because of my story, but also because of other stories that happened, because sudden adult death syndrome happens in the young quite frequently.
It's becoming a little bit more common. I don't know if it is, but I seem to be hearing about it more.
Yeah.
So in saying that, I just think it's one of those, it's a good lesson. Look after yourself, check your heart out.
Absolutely.
Just if that's yearly or if it's every few years, I think it's a good message in that. Geez, you're brave.
Even
getting through that.
I mean, I think there's two ways you can go when something like that happens to you. I think you either get on with it or you wallow in it. And don't worry, there was days of wallowing, absolutely, and you're allowed that. But I definitely think happiness isn't the absence of problems, it's the ability to deal with them. And I wrote that everywhere when I was going through this, because you just have to find your happiness with the cards you're dealt. We'll all get dealt really hard cards in our life, and it's just trying to find the happiness within that and find a way to make it work.
God.
Very
powerful. So you're in Cornwall visiting your friend.
Yeah.
Your dad rings you up.
Yeah.
Very emotional, understandably. What happened at that point?
So I just came home. I was told they were astonished. Like, the doctors didn't think that this was going to happen. So we have just made a plan as we go. I'm still not off blood thinners because they're not too sure whether I have a genetic underlined condition that might make me clot. But they want to keep me safe. So I'm on a very low dose. I come off it during my races, and I'm looked after very well now. But it has changed my life,
So you come back from Cornwall again, and you're at home. You get the good news. You're obviously reassessing your journey again, because, as you said yourself, you've nearly got this second chance. Is that where, in your head, you're like, you know what, I'm going to become an Olympian?
It wasn't that moment, but I suppose I didn't set out going, I'm going to become an Olympian. I just wanted to take every opportunity then that I could and was capable of doing. So unfortunately, I'd already taken the year of leave and filled in the papers, and so I wasn't able to actually go into my last year med school. The doctors were still unsure whether this, was like, I got a few more scans. So I had a year out, and it was hard for me because I wasn't necessarily too sick that I needed the year out, but I was missing my, my normal routine. So it was trying to find things that I loved outside of sport while I recovered. I fostered dogs. I volunteered. I got coaching certificates in swimming, and if I couldn't be involved by being the actual individual doing sport, I was going to try and be a part of it in any way, shape or form, because I do think it's a great aspect of life that we can all get involved in, whether you want to be the athlete or the coach or just some staff helping an event run. It's a community. And community brings us, together in life and makes us happy. It gives us emotions and friendships, and it's just really important for life. So I made sure that I was, within that, and then I was very eager to get back into med school, do my med school, and then I did get back into training. I was given the go-ahead in 2020 to start training again a year later. And I slowly did it. Never thought I was going to be an Olympian, but what I realized was I just started getting better and being really consistent, because I never took a session for granted. I never took the ability to be able to go outside and run in the rain. That was just amazing to me, because it was taken away from me at a certain time. So I felt like nearly guilt if I didn't, because I just have this body, this health that I can use, and I don't want to be lazy. I want to see where I can go with this. I want to be the best I can be in everything I can do.
Wow. So you finished medicine and you went down to Waterford and you were working down there full time.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity arose in 2023 for you to go into this full time.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, yeah. So I had my first international start while working 45-hour weeks.
Was that in Turkey?
In the HSC, yes.
Okay.
And that was a shock to the system, because obviously I'm not doing the level of training of these international athletes, and I suppose Ireland is such a small pool within triathlon, and you might be the best in this country, but when you go abroad and represent Ireland and you go into the pool of the international standard, you're bottom of the barrel again. And it's learning how to get better and work your way up within that. So I knew I couldn't do that when I was working 45-hour weeks. So I had to make a choice, and I suppose my health scare made me do that leap of faith, because life is too short. I have a really healthy body right now. I can go back into medicine and be the doctor that I want to be, but I can also do things on the side, which I have done whilst being a professional triathlete.
Yeah. And is Tri Ireland based at Blanchetown, Abbottstown?
So Triathlon Ireland, our high performance director, is actually over in Scotland, and it's a very minority federation, but it's growing, and we're hoping to get and inspire younger children into the sport so that we can build the high performance network and just grow the sport in general in the whole of Ireland, so that people can enjoy swim, biking and running.
Incredible. And there are three sports, let's be honest, that are becoming more and more popular. It seems more people are running, more people are cycling.
Absolutely.
So I can only see, like, for a young female or male, what a great discipline to be in, because you can't complete a triathlon without going through tough times and testing yourself and your discipline and your drive and your ambition. Like, having those checks throughout your life is vitally important, and you've ticked every box, as you said. That event you went to, your first event in Turkey, that was the senior mixed relay team, is that correct?
No, it was actually, that was just the individual. The mixed relay at the European Championships was last year. It was the first mixed team relay that I've actually participated in, but it was only the second ever one that we've sent for Ireland on the elite international standard. So that was incredible to be a part of, and I was on the team with 2 Olympians.
Amazing.
So as my first experience in a mixed team relay, that was incredible.
How'd you do?
I got the fastest female split, which I was very surprised.
Congratulations.
Because the other female had been to the Olympics, and I looked up to her and just wanted to get better myself. But yeah, she was an inspiration to me when I was in the sport starting off. So it was incredible to get that and to do well. I am an athlete who will always want more, so I will always want to do better, and I have my areas that I want to improve on, and I'm only starting off, so I know that I have a long journey ahead to try and get where I want to be.
And I know there are different grades of triathlons. You have sprints, you can have all sorts. So for people who are listening, explain your discipline and the distances that you complete in every race. Okay,
so the big one triathlon that everybody seems to know is Ironman. So Ironman is an ultra endurance, I would nearly call it. It takes about anywhere from 8 to 20 hours to complete. It is a 3.9 kilometer swim, a 180k bike, and a marathon. So that's your Ironman. Then your half Ironman is half of those different distances all together in one. Now those distances, they go on a time trial bike, which is you have to keep your distance from the person in front of you. It's all about your own effort within the bike segment. the sport that I do and the distances of triathlon that I do are much shorter, but the difference is that we are all on road bikes, and like the Tour de France coming up, we're in pelotons and we're draft legal, essentially what we call it. So we're like a bike race. We play tactics. You know, there's sprints, there's people get away up the road, and it's very tactical. So it's quite different from Ironman in that way. But a lot more crashes happen. It's very, hard. Your bike handling has to be, on point. And that's why I knew I had to go professional, because I was spending my training hours usually indoors, because by the time I got out of the hospital, it was dark. Yeah. So I just hop on the turbo. But I knew that I needed to change things. I needed to get better at those skills that I needed. So I moved to Girona once I went and left the hospital. And I lived with 2 professional female cyclists. And I would just watch them. What did they do? I'd go out with cyclists that were beyond my level in bike handling. And I would be scared. So scared. But it was the best way to make me improve quickly.
I'd say you have to develop pretty strong elbows, like sharp elbows. same in the swim. I mean, how long is the swim?
So
750 meters?
In sprint distance, it's 750. But in the actual Olympics individual event, we do a 1600 meter swim, a 40k bike, and a 10k run. So that's your said Olympic distance that you will see in the Olympics this year in Paris. And that's around 2 hours long for the women and about an hour 50 for the men. And then we also have the new event, which is the mixed team relay, which is 2 males and 2 females do a super sprint triathlon, which is 300 swim, or sometimes 400 swim, depends on the course. About a 6 to 8k bike, again depends on the course, but usually very technical, very fast, flat, and then kind of like a crit in cycling, and then a mile run. So like a really, really hard fast run.
What's your fastest time in a mile run?
Oh God. I know I did. I suppose I'm always in per kilometers. I'm not the miles sort. I know athletics people will be pulling their hair out at me now. But I suppose I can run a mile in the equivalent of like 3-minute flat Ks, I suppose. So work that out in a mile distance. I don't know.
Just over 4 minutes?
Off a bike. Yeah, off a bike, that would be what I'd be able to run. So my 5k off a bike would be around the 17:30 mark.
5k, your 5k run?
Yeah, off a bike. I'd like to think that I could run faster if I was.
17:30 for 5 kilometers of running?
That's what you have to be doing. Like, you cannot be, pretty much, you can't be really slower than 19 minutes off the bike at the elite level in the female field.
That is like,
that's not even fast. No, but that's not even fast enough. I mean, the top girls that you'll see at the Olympics, they're going to be running 32 off the bike, and the males will be running like 28, 29 off the bike for 10k. That's how quickly the sport has developed over the last few years.
My God, that is...
Yeah, it's so quick.
Is in the Olympics, are you swimming in a lake, the sea, or are you swimming in the pool?
No, it's always open water, but that might be, it depends again on the course. So if it's in LA, it's probably going to be in the sea, but obviously in Paris, it's going to be in the river.
God, that's one thing that always, as I said to you, I'm not pretending I'm a triathlete, but I have completed a triathlon. But the one I did, it was in a swimming pool. So I feel like I didn't really do one. We did the full length. There's something about having the goggles on in the sea, or like, I don't know. I don't like the dark waters. I think the open
water brings that edge of uncertainty for some people that they don't like. I think in a pool environment, everything's, very safe and measured, where you can't control the elements in the sea or in a river. Then it's quite cold in Ireland, so people don't like that either.
Do they call it the washing machine effect? Is that what it's called at the start of a swim?
Yeah, there was quite good few videos from the King of Greystones last year where you just start off 400 people and they just run into the sea.
Mental.
And, you know, usually at home races as well, there's not a lot of females up the front in the start, and it's usually all the males that are, and they've a great 100 meters, first 100 meters out, but you get pelted around. That's when you really need the elbows.
Yeah. Have you got have you caught any jabs in the head?
Oh, I've gotten black eyes and bruised noses from many a triathlon, but I luckily grew up in that martial arts gym, so I'm not too afraid of being, you know, messed around like that.
How many calories do you aim for a day? Is that even a thing for you? Do you have a target of calories?
No, I don't at all. I don't calorie count. I never have. Even with my dad's fighters growing up making weight, it wasn't a thing. You just try and fuel what you're about to do. So before, during, and after. So you're trying to get in fuel before so that you do a good session. During, if it's long enough that you need it, to make sure that the session is good for the whole session and you don't like peak and then die off at the end. And then obviously to recover, for your muscles to actually accumulate the stimulus that you've just given it in the training session, you need to fuel. So that's really important. And unfortunately, for the 2 years that I was working as a doctor, you know, that was something that I was missing, because you can't, you know, say to your patient, sorry, I need to get a sandwich right now because I'm about to do a session in 4 hours. It unfortunately didn't happen like that. The HSC, you work not the typical 9 to 5. You don't know when you're going to be getting out of there, and it was harder to kind of fuel correctly. But now that's changed, luckily, but it still is a big factor that you have to think about. But calorie counting, I wouldn't recommend really unless you're clinically told to do so.
Okay. So let's take a typical week, and I know you'd have down days, you'd have fast days, you'd have endurance days. Let's take your hardest training day.
Yeah.
What time does the alarm go off in the morning, and what does that day look like?
So when I was in China, we would get up at I would get up at 4:30 or 5
in the afternoon.
I wish.
The Irish triathlete.
In the morning time, I would get up to make coffee and have a little bit of a snack before the pool session, which we would be expected to be at the pool for 6:30. So again, you need about an hour to kind of digest that and just to wake up the body. And then I would walk to the pool, because again, in China, everything was in that 3 kilometer area. So we were just, you know, it was hotel room to pool to track. Then you'd come back. We had this center where we'd be, you know, able to go and get our meals cooked for us. So that was really, really helpful. A bit of getting used to the Chinese food, but
it's quite westernized.
No, not at all.
I find Chinese food is very westernized.
Maybe in the touristy areas, but where we were, it was very authentic. And so I struggled, actually, because fish porridge, I'm not used to.
God, in the morning.
Yeah, no. Or everything seemed to have pork in it, and or some sort of meat, which was weird getting used to, because...
Not sure if it was pork.
I don't even know some of the meats that we were given, but it was all tested, and they did really well with, like, you know, because obviously we get all tested so much, and a lot of China, they actually pump hormones into their produce and their animals because they just have so many people to feed, right? So what they did was, in our Olympic training center, they actually grew their own food and had the animals live and then killed them in whatever way. I eat...
You make it so appealing.
I eat quite vegetarian. You know, I eat fish and some red meat, but I wouldn't eat meat quite frequently. Yeah. I do like a vegetarian diet, even 3 or 4 days of the week. I think it's important for the environment and for your health, just to change it up a little and get good nutrients in. I love nuts and beans, and it was very hard to get used to just white rice, meat, you know, But again, it's another challenge that you just see as a challenge and you try and get through.
Did you notice after that few months that you were training in China, did that diet have any impact by the end?
Yes, unfortunately. I suppose the days that I didn't know what meat it was, or maybe I suppose the spices as well, it's very hard to come off the track and your stomach closes up. And I suppose I'm again only very new to this professional sport, so we didn't have access to shops, or I couldn't make a smoothie like you would at home if your stomach closed up to try and get nutrients in. So I was trying to eat as bland as I could, but I suppose you're not getting everything that you need then. And with the hard training, the altitude effect as well, so you're up about 2,000 meters. I unfortunately, by the end of the training block, coming into the start of the season, I picked up a stress fracture, my first ever stress fracture. So it's been a big learning curve, and it just goes to show that even as a doctor, I don't get everything right. We never get everything right. And I am hard on myself, but we make these mistakes so that we can learn from them. So I'm definitely getting on top of, if I was to go back there, how I would deal with food changes and culture changes that might affect my usual training schedule, and in terms of food, sleep, nutrition, everything.
Yeah. How many hours do you try and get a night's sleep wise?
Oh, definitely 8. I think I'm very grumpy if I don't.
And are you an early to bed, early riser?
Yes.
So what time, like most days, what would be an average day you wake up at?
I think the latest I would go to bed would be 10. And I mean asleep. Because some people say, oh, I go to bed at like 8, but they're actually staying in bed, maybe scrolling on their phone. So I kind of have a rule to myself that I don't bring the phone into the bedroom, which helps. And so as soon as I go to the bedroom, that room should be what its purpose is. So if it's a bedroom, don't have anything that would not pertain to sleep, is kind of my sort of rule. If you're eating in a kitchen and cooking in a kitchen, that's its main focus. You shouldn't be kind of watching the telly whilst you're eating. And then
great. I like that.
It's just, I think if we give a purpose to the rooms, then we don't get distracted from what the main purpose is, because I think life is so fast-paced that I see with a lot of my patients that that's sometimes a thing that happens, that the phone comes into the bedroom, the TVs come into the bedroom or the kitchen, and you mindlessly eat, or you don't go to bed at the right time. And it's just little changes that we can do. Not that we're going to be more harsh on ourselves, but they just make those lifestyle changes way easier.
Yeah, very valuable. I was very lucky. So I coached with Team USA, and I spent 2 long periods in the Olympic training centers, one in Chula Vista in San Diego and one in Colorado.
Amazing.
So 6 weeks in Chula Vista, and I think we were a month in Colorado before going to the World Cup in Japan. And I got a chance to watch the swimmers. I got a chance to watch triathletes, and I mean the level of training they did really opened my eyes to, you're a unique group to be able to do triathlon training and to be able to live the life of a triathlete requires an incredible amount of discipline. And I've so much admiration, and even listening to you speak as your time in China, it's obvious that you probably took on so much information that you're now already adapting into what you're doing here in Ireland. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just want to expand my knowledge, and we don't have to go to school or university just to do that. We can expand our knowledge through experiences, whether they become positive or negative, and we just learn from them. So that's what I'm trying to do. And
do you have a global world ranking?
Yes, I do. It's not it's been kind of laying stagnant and falling, because I obviously haven't been able to race this year yet. Only once in Nepal, which unfortunately I had lined up a lot of races after that. I'd stayed in Thailand to try and heal myself, thinking that it might be just a niggle, but unfortunately I got scans and it was diagnosed as a stress fracture.
Okay.
So.
And you're back training full time at the moment?
I'm in the recovery phase, so it's important when you get an injury to, look at everything, what happened, and then recover and make yourself stronger so you come back stronger. This is my first bone injury, so I don't want it to happen again. So I'm not going to rush to try and race. The Olympics window was way past me, so LA is the distant future. I might throw myself into the professional field in half distance Ironman until the new qualification window opens 2 years prior to LA.
Okay.
And then still throw myself into short course races to try get that ranking up and just keep growing my experience, get better as an athlete. And then I'm also very passionate still about my medical career, so I'm doing things as well now that I can hopefully expand my knowledge in that area.
And do you get paid full time from Sport Ireland?
No. So you need to be carded as an athlete to get paid, and each sport governing body has their own set carding criteria. And unfortunately, because we're a very minority sport, we don't have developmental athletes or athletes that are outside, say, the top 100 in the world to get funding in triathlon. So we need to make that easier and better, but it is hard as a developmental athlete. It takes, especially in triathlon, because there's a bike, there's bike maintenance, there's, we have to go abroad to get a ranking up. So to get a world ranking into the top 100 or to do those races, you need to be at the races and you need to pay for travel, accommodation, coaching, all of that. So it's quite an investment as a developmental athlete before you kind of get carded, essentially, in our sport.
And do you have sponsorship?
Minimal. I've been living off my savings. I'm very fortunate that COVID hit, I suppose, when I was a junior doctor, so everything was closed, and obviously I was living the sport life and the medicine life, so it didn't allow for much social life. So I had a lot of savings, thankfully, and I took a leap of faith, and I've been basically living off of them. I do some motivational speaking and some coaching work on the side to try and help, and I'm a brand ambassador for a children's cancer charity, and I do a few things on the side, but it is difficult. I'm not going to make it out that it's not, and it's not only our sport, it's all of our sports across the board. It's getting much better, but I think Ireland isn't high on the medal rankings, not because we don't have the talent pool. I think we're a very talented nation. I just think our developmental funding in sport is lacking, and that probably needs to change over the next few years.
So, like, in a year, let's look at 2025 now.
Yeah.
You're going to be going away quite a lot, I presume. You're going to be throwing the bike, which is going to cost all sorts of money to head away.
Yes.
Like, is it about 100,000? Is that a rough? It would cost you per year to?
I would hope not that much. I am very, very cautious, but yeah, about, I would say 50,000. Carding only actually starts at the lowest level. We've only 2 people in triathlon that are carded, and they're on the lowest level, and that's 15 grand a year. 15 to 18 grand.
And do they rely on private investment then?
Again, so one of the girls works full time and then takes a sabbatical, like I have, for a couple of months, and even the para triathletes, they have full-time jobs, going to the Paralympics or trying to go to the Paralympics, even for Paris. So it's quite hard for triathletes, and we're hoping that as a developmental sport, it'll hopefully get easier in the future.
God, something else. So is there anywhere that somebody listening to this could go to help support you, or to give to you to try and support your? Absolutely.
I mean, I want to work with companies. I want to try and bring some of my skill sets as well for sponsorship. I like to I suppose partner with brands who are on a mission to do something or have a certain look to their company or sort of a passion, and whether that's medical orientated, lifestyle medicine orientated, just inspirational speaking, or even if they just are really passionate about getting young girls into sport whilst doing education to a high level. I mean, I'd love to partner with some companies. I just don't know how to get in contact with anybody that may be aware of my story or what's happening in sport.
Are you on scholarship by any chance at Trinity at the moment? Did I read that right?
I am.
Great.
I'm also doing my third degree, postgraduate degree for my sins, in Trinity, in clinical exercise.
Okay, so still medically related?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm trying to, I suppose, mesh my passions for both exercise, activity, and then also my knowledge and love for medicine and keeping people healthy.
God.
So clinical exercise it came to me when I got sick. I actually realised that I was no longer allowed in my gym. And as we all know now, the links between mental health and movement is really important. And I found it really difficult to find a gym that would take me on because of my health condition. And then I realised that I'm not the only one in this case, that there's a lot of conditions and chronic conditions that don't have guidance around what they can and can't do or how to stay active, because conditions can stay active. And luckily through this postgraduate degree, because as a doctor we don't get training to allow us to prescribe exercise. We're only trained to prescribe pills and medications. So I think it's really important that we take a step back from that and that we prescribe exercise and lifestyle changes first. And that's how we're going to unburden the HSE, by actually preventing people from walking into hospital in the first place. And I'm really passionate about the fact that we can do that through our lifestyle changes by being more active and just looking after ourselves a bit more in terms of diet, mental health and activity levels.
It's such a, I don't use the word buzzword at the moment because that's wrong, but there's such a focus on that, particularly if you look at social media. But
Absolutely.
when you're a doctor and you're going into that space, it adds so much more, I'm not going to say authenticity to it, but I'll probably have to edit this out because I'll probably say something I shouldn't say. But it just offers so much more professionalism to it all, if that makes sense. Like I look at social media and I see like people who last week they were mechanics and now they're telling you that you have to do this in order to be healthy. And that's great, fair play to you. And there's lots of those people out there. But when you come from the sport of triathlons, when you've come from being a doctor, it's a very different journey in my opinion. And I'm going to cut that out because I have no question there. But it is very different. Like I know lots of bluffers who are out there, they've been to the gym themselves, they're in pretty good shape and they're telling you, to do this for 7 days.
But this is it. If I only did my sport and was a medical professional, I still wouldn't be an expert in clinical exercise. So I had to do a degree. I seen there was a gap in my knowledge, like most doctors. And it's really hard for doctors now to give that advice. We're under such pressures in the HSE or even just your local GP to give you the time to sit down and say, I'm giving you this medication for your diabetes, but actually, if you worked on this, this and this, I could take you off that medication. But we don't have time. Doctors don't have time, and they also aren't educated in it.
Wow.
We aren't given how to prescribe exercise in our medical school. We're told, the food pyramid, we're all taught that. You can find any generic, I suppose, information online on social media, but now there's so much information out there. It's what to trust and who to trust, and people should be able to trust their doctors. But unfortunately, because the HSC is so burdened as well, doctors aren't in the best shape themselves, and they don't actually even have time to take care of themselves, and that makes people anxious and worried, because how are you meant to trust somebody who is overweight and telling you to lose weight?
Yeah, I used to have a fitness coach when I was playing some representative rugby when I was a young man, and we had this fitness coach who was a monster, terrible diet, and like he couldn't run. And I just remember in the back of my mind, I'm a nice person, so I just did it because I wouldn't not do it. But I remember sometimes he's asked me to do things that are very tough, just going, you can't fucking even bend down and touch your toes. Like, who the fuck are you to tell me to go faster, mate? So I kind of agree. I think if you're a fitness coach, particularly if you're a rugby coach, if you're an elite athlete, if you're somebody who's involved in the sporting world at all, you can't be having like a Ned Kelly on you. You can't be overweight, unfortunately.
I can't be a hypocrite. I can't wake up every day and say, you know, you need to move more, you need to lose weight, you need to watch your diet. If I don't do it myself, if I don't try to be the best version of myself each day, how can I tell somebody else to do that?
You're a terrific role model. I must say you're inspirational, and I know you're humble, and you probably don't like me saying this, but the country and the world needs more young male and female who are driven, focused, diligent, fun, smart. It really is. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you.
You're giving me far too many compliments.
Well, I am. I'll probably edit all these out. Too many. My wife would be like, well, that's a bit over the top there, Greg. But in saying that, what does the rest of 2024 into 2025 look like for you?
I suppose I was just lucky. I found my passions. Okay. And I think it came early for me, and I got, I suppose a fast pass into the whole concept of life's too short because of the illness. So I'm just nothing's going to change for me in 2025. It's going to be take every opportunity by the horns, be the best version of myself each day, and just try and gain more knowledge, more experience in my said passions. And I just keep it that simple. Is the World Championship in 2 years' time? So it's every year actually in triathlon. We have a World Triathlon series. And have you competed in that? Not yet. So that again, we haven't actually had any Irish athletes in that in the last couple of years. Okay, but that's obviously a goal of yours. That is definitely a goal. Yes, absolutely. And then I wouldn't mind being at the Ironman and half Ironman World Champs one day as a professional as well, and breaking the female records for first Ireland and then maybe down the line the more incredible world ones. But and then obviously again, the pot of gold would be LA 2028. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I grew up watching the Olympics. It would be such a big dream of mine, and I think whether I make it or not, I'm gonna give it my best shot, and I'm gonna give it my best shot. But better. I mean, if it doesn't happen, at least I tried. Yeah. And I have no regrets. And I think people should do that more. I think they should just not be scared or anxious about what other people think or what if they fail, because at least they know they tried their best. And I've made so many friends, had so many experiences, visited so many countries, integrated myself into different cultures. I've gained so much from this journey, and whether it accumulates to the Olympics or not, I'm just really, really grateful I'm on this path. Yeah, and you know, at the same time, you're a fully qualified doctor who's going into your third degree. So it's nice to have that as a fallback. You know, I wouldn't even call it a fallback, because I see my career path going into, I think in the future, I really am passionate about this whole lifestyle medicine, that I want to set up sort of practices in this country that people can go and they can have the time to sit with a practitioner, a doctor in one centralized center, that we can have a nutritionist, a dietitian, a physio, a pharmacist to check your meds, which ones you can come off, and you sit with the practitioner, a psychologist as well, and all in this center. You change your lifestyle habits before it gets too late, and we give you the time to help you change your family's life for the better, so you're happier, because it's just education. I don't think everybody has the access to it. And I don't think we as doctors at the minute have the time to give to our patients to make those changes. So I think we need to set up a practice or practices elsewhere outside the GP kind of realm that you can go to get referred to and be helped in the right way.
Amazing. Dr. Shannon Kelly, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, telling us your story. And as I said to you, fair play to you. I'm going to be supporting you, and I hope it all goes well for you.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Good luck with the recovery.
Chatting to you.
And good luck with the training.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Roll on the Olympics 2028.
Absolutely.
Produced by the Mayros Future Company.